it's nice to, it's great. I'd like to become the best classical player I can, but I also want to experiment.
Introducing Miss Rhiannon Ledwell.
My mom's friend gave her like a mixtape of some kind when I was in high school, like a CD with a bunch of different, really variety of artists on it. And on there was something of Ravi Shankar. So I heard and I was like, I'm gonna do this.
A sitarist who has contributed in singles like Indian Summer.
With music, it's just so subjective.
It's funny. People always say like, "Oh, how long did it take you to learn this?" And I'm like, "Well, this is how long I've done it for, like 10 years, whatever. But I haven't learned it yet. There's no end point."
A composer and vice president for education at the University of Aberdeen.
But actually, one of my favorite quotes when I think about why do I do music and what do I want to get from it? What do I want to see other people get from it? Which is good to remember if I'm getting frustrated or feeling competitive or any of these negative emotions that can work their way into trying to have a music career. Is a quote by Nikhil Banerjee, I think he's my favorite sitarist. If you haven't listened to him, I highly recommend it. But he says,
Get ready to embark on this mesmerizing journey of a sitarist, Miss Rhiannon Ledwell. Not only she's my friend, a very good one, she's also here to express her feelings on music and what it means to her. Rhiannon's passion for music is not just inspiring, but after this episode, it has struck a profound chord in my heart, and I hope it does for you as well. So sit back, relax, and let's transform the life lessons into the liquid gold. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night. Doesn't matter which part of the place you're listening it from. Welcome to yet another episode of the Liquid Gold podcast. This is your host, Mirza Jahangir Baig, and today I'm so happy to be announcing my first friend who's coming in, and she's a very dear friend. We've known each other for a very long time. She's very versatile with her talents, and she knows so much, and she's just emitting fun energies whenever I was around her. And she's majorly responsible for making Scotland one of the best places to visit whenever. And introducing Miss Rhiannon Ledwell, a name that I botch every time I write in WhatsApp. So, hey, Rhiannon, how are you?
"Good, how are you?"
I'm
Thank you
doing
so much for
so
having me
good.
on.
No, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Currently, you're the Vice President of Education from the University of Aberdeen, a university where I also completed my master's from, a university which made it possible for me to meet like individuals with such great talents and such a great story like Rhiannon. So yeah, how's everything? How's Aberdeen? How are you?
It's great. Really enjoying staying here. It's funny, when I came, I thought I'd probably first come for just a year and just learn a bit, not do a full degree, just work on music and study a bit, and then probably go back. And then I ended up, just one thing led to the next, and I'm still here. And this year I'm taking a sabbatical year, and like you said, doing vice president of education with the Students' Union. So just trying to make education policies better support students. Um, at the same time, whether I'm studying or working, trying to figure out how to keep pushing forward with music as well. So
Yeah, because I remember the first time I met you, it was at a house party, and I believe that was my third day in UK. And I you just caught my eyes because you're still looking lovely today as well, and you were dressed with the Indian traditional kurta and shalwar kameez and all the with that attire, and I saw you, and then I just asked like, "Hi, what's up?" And we introduced each other, and you just came on and said, "Oh, today's Diwali, and that's why I'm wearing this." And it just caught my eye, and then since then we're just so like good friends. You, you're more like a family to me. But yeah, just speaking about that time and before it, like taking it back to the early days when you're in USA, and you like sparked the interest for you to music? What would you say?
Well, music. Sitar came later, but music itself, when I was a kid, like my mum played piano, and of course we were always listening to the radio,
Mm-hmm.
going around. So I would always ask her to, or I'd always sit by her while she played piano. And for some reason, my favorite thing she would play was the theme song to, like the Peanuts, like Charlie Brown,
Yeah.
like that theme song. So I always made her play that, and I would like dance around to it. And also like I remember really liking Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd as like a
Mm.
40-year-old child. These were two early musical memories. And I really wanted to learn, but I was a very impatient child. But by the time I was about 8, I got the chance to start playing flute at school. So I did that. Switched to saxophone when I was in high school and thought, oh, I really like jazz. Was never very good at jazz. So that was a bit of a just like not misguided because I enjoyed it, but I didn't have the same passion to practice saxophone. But yeah, I heard the recording of my mom's friend gave her like a mixtape of some kind when I was in
Mm.
high school, like a CD with a bunch of different, really variety of artists on it. And on there was something of Ravi Shankar. So I heard and I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I just put that in the back of my mind. And then a few years later, I ran into someone at the college I was at that he had left for a semester and he went to India and studied sitar and he came back. And I was like, "Well, this guy's done exactly what I want to do."
Mm.
So I had to. I mean, it was a bit weird. I didn't know him, and he was a bit older. So I was like, "Okay, it's gonna be strange if I approach him and be like, I know what you did. I want to do it too." But I did, and he kind of talked me through it and was like, "This is actually a very difficult thing. Are you sure you want to do it? But I'll put you in contact with my teacher." Yeah, so I then proceeded to leave for a semester and went and lived in Delhi for 6 months, and that was the first
Uh,
time that I um, really dived into learning.
so this is not like this is not the same time when you also visited Gandhi Ashram School. That was later on.
No, yeah, that was much later. Although during that same college, like maybe a year after I'd come back, that was the first time I went to Gandhi Ashram, so I've been there twice.
Mm.
The first time was through a January program at that college where a bunch of the music students and I think English students as well, we made 1 month curriculum of like what we wanted to teach, and it could be a couple different classes. So I think I taught um, I did a blues class with a friend of mine, and I did a creative writing class, which was really fun. So we went there and taught for just 1 month at that point. But when I went back, I'd remembered that experience and thought, this place, I want to go back here and work with them.
Yeah, I do. And I do see that. Like we all are amalgam of our experiences, and I do see a lot of your excitement and your energy and your thought process coming from those experiences as well. But how was Delhi for you?
It's
I'm not
fun.
sure if we had that conversation before.
I don't know if we did actually. It's funny because I am not a city person.
Mm.
I love the countryside. I love living in Scotland. I would love to live like on a mountain in the middle of the woods or something. But at the same time, Delhi still holds a really special place in my heart. I think because maybe also it was so exciting at the time, and it was actually the first time I'd lived like outside of
Mm.
student accommodation on my own.
Yeah.
Um, so
Heard Ravi Shankar's music. You got inspired. You went to India. You learned sitar. You came back. How was it then, like when you came back in USA?
there was a bit of so I went back to the college I was at. There was a bit of reverse culture shock in a way, like in a bad way, where it was even landing in the airport, everyone was so unfriendly. And I remember I like the ATM machine, the cash machine at the airport ate my last like $20 or something I had.
Oh,
that I needed to take the bus or whatever I needed to get back home. And so I just sat down on the airport floor and like cried with my luggage.
oh,
And no one stopped. Like it was, and I kept thinking to myself, like, oh, if this had been India, like someone would have said something, or they.
mm.
But everyone was just too much into their own business. There, like here back in the U.S. And also everyone was just dressed in blacks and grays, and I was like, this is the most depressing place.
Wow.
And just like the visual difference as well. I think it was winter when I came back, so yeah, everything
Mm.
was just really. Um, and then the whole next semester in college, I was like, why am I even here? What am I doing?
So you
Um,
do miss Kalimpong then. So then, like, you did you go back to Kalimpong after a few years or?
no, and that was Delhi. That was the first time I came back. A year later, I went to Kalimpong through the teaching
Mm.
program through the college, just for a month that time. But I kind of stopped playing a bit after I probably spent 3 years not really playing because there was no one to learn from. I mean, learning
Mm.
for 6 months, you still basically know nothing. You're just you've learned some basics but you really still need lots of guidance. I mean, you're never really done learning, but especially at that point if you don't have constant sort of supervision, um, you develop bad habits and you don't have any kind of community as well
Mm.
for the music. So I just stopped playing, but I got more into jazz at that point and applied to CalArts, California Institute of the Arts. Got rejected the first time, and then I just was like, it's okay, I'll just take some time and apply again. Because I had this like crisis in my mind. I was like, oh no, I'll graduate from this college and I know nothing. Like I'll be a terrible musician still.
Uh,
I did not get where I wanted to be. My family was like, you're crazy. Why would you give up like the scholarship? You're so close to finishing. And I was like, but it's not what I want.
mm.
Just trust me. And so I did get into CalArts a second time for composition. My saxophone teacher was really supportive, and he was like, well, your composition's really good, why don't you try that too, probably pushing me because he knew I wasn't a very good saxophone player. But I going to India as well as like listening to more music back in the States, like jazz and stuff, really inspired me to start composing and arranging music. So yeah, that was the next step in my journey. And I did pick CalArts as well because they do have a really strong world music program, specifically Indian classical music. So
Mm.
that's where I picked it back up. Probably at least 2 years. Was it 2 years after I started learning? But I basically went 3 years without playing hardly at all.
No, but I've listened you play. Like I've attended one of your um, concerts in the chapel in University of Aberdeen when it happened, and I can't say that you are still, working with the basics. You're still trying to figure out how to how to work with sitar, dude. You're really good. I've seen that, and it was like one of the best experience I've had in Aberdeen. Just attending your concert, and also we were somehow responsible because we were with the whole behind the scene things as well because we attended it beforehand as well, just to see how it will look like and all those bits as well. But yeah, it's and also the instrument, dude. It's just so big. I
Yeah.
remember, yeah, carrying it to parties sometimes. I think we left it at my place when we were going to Union Street. But yeah, that's how it is. And so right now I've listened to your tracks as well that you've composed. You came into Scotland with an idea that I found really interesting as well, which was to combine Indian classical music with the Gaelic music. I might be mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that as well. Like, was that the intention when you decided to come to Aberdeen?
Yeah, yeah. So after I'd probably spent about like this is maybe about 7 years in California, really like diving into sitar and
Hmm.
trying to move beyond the basics, as you said. Um, After CalArts going up to the Ali Akbar College of Music,
Hmm.
and that's a really great traditional learning environment where um, it's just, I was just doing that more or less. And but I always had the idea that I have this other background. I've listened to other kinds of music, and I have a bit of crossover knowledge, and I really want to use that and make something that's really me as well. In addition to it's nice to, it's great. I'd like to become the best classical player I can, but I also want to experiment, and that this project, this idea was a part of that. So I came to I said, okay, I'll get there. Obviously, my official route to getting there was studying at the university to study Gaelic, but the music as well that goes with it, Scottish traditional music, Irish music, thinking, how can I combine this with Indian classical music? And I'm not the first person who's had this idea, and it's been done before, and it's pretty cool. Of course, when I had the idea, when you have any idea, sometimes you think you're the only person in history who's ever had that idea. And it's a bit disappointing to learn that, oh, I'm not really being original. But that doesn't matter, because whatever you do, you'll do it in your own way. So
Yeah.
I thought I'll do some research, so I joined the Folk and Trad Music Society at the university, and found, my goodness, this music is so difficult to play on sitar, because if you think of a violin or guitar, the guitars usually play the like rhythm and the chords and that aspect of the music, and the violin's playing the melody. But if you think of a violin, it's very small, and they can leave their hand all in one place and play a lot of arpeggios and notes, whereas I have this big long neck that mostly to go up the scale, you move horizontally, and that makes it very difficult to play these fast passages and arpeggios. So I realized my technical skill needs a lot of work to really successfully do this, or find a different way to do it. So it's both a challenge. It was a bit discouraging to figure that out, but also I just need to approach it in a creative way and think, how can I make this happen? Balancing university life with a music career it's not an easy thing to do. So that's still something, dude, I'm working on.
It's still something to be applauded for, because I like really fancy music myself. I love rap. I like really love that genre. I really like rapping and that whole thing. But with music, it's just very easy to appreciate the music, but it's very hard to have a command over it and be like, you know what, I have mastered this thing right here. I know everything related to this, because it's just so subjective. It means so different to everyone, and everyone has their own meaning to it. And so when you said that you feel as if this is not an original idea, but it's still something being given into this field with from your side, from your taste, because it's going to be different. And right now, the current situation, how it is, people really want to know the story behind whatever's being produced and whatever's, right now trending. And with that, if I know you as a person and I then hear your music, I relate to it a lot. Because I know what was the thought process behind that. Because that's also happened with a few of my guests as well. We had a writer beforehand, and he sent me his book. I read it, and then I gave him my like honest opinion about it, and then he said what he wanted readers to perceive from it, and then I realized that that was exactly what my review had. And it's just, I'm glad that that has been the same for you as well, because for me, classical music is something that I should know of, because I'm from India as well. But I haven't yet dived myself into that. I'm a lot more inclined towards Sufism, or then it's rap. So they don't add up.
There is a lot of classical music in like Qawwali music, though.
Yes.
My friend there, he was a guest artist at the college I was at, actually, before I went to India. So I had him as a contact. He's from Delhi, so I said, can you help me like find a place to live, etc. So he was the first person I knew there, and I see him occasionally, like if I travel or if he happens to travel, he tours a lot. But he's very proficient with like classical music, and
Mm.
it's the style is different, but the music underneath it is the same, in the way like there's a similar approach. It's just the way they use the notes and the way they
Mm.
approach it is different. But
Yeah.
such
Was
power though. Oh my goodness! Like most of the
yes.
Qawwali singers I've heard, they're just like a force to be reckoned with. Their voice is so powerful.
Because I've heard, because that's the main thing. Whenever I've heard someone, who's introducing me to Sufi music, or if they're showing me a Qawwali, like you said, it starts off with that, oh, they're not singing to the audience, they're singing to God. So it's like it's a different paradigm whatsoever. The approach is just not to entertain the audience, not to show your talent. It's just the singer, the whole team, and then they're just talking to God. They're conversing. They're trying to convey a message to God through these skills. And they
Mm-hmm.
do, like, the hierarchy and the whole process is there. Whenever you're talking about your teacher, you have to hold one ear of yours just to show
Mm-hmm.
respect, and all those bits also come into like this picture. And it's a lot like many fields out there where the hierarchy is always respected, but music it's very different, because you can never say that, oh, for example, I have sold this number of tracks, I'm platinum, and I sold and all of these bits, but my mentor, he now I'm above him. That would never be the case when it comes to Indian music, or like Sufism as well, because it's you can never say that your mentor, you have surpassed your mentor with your music and with your delivery, because you are
Yeah.
nothing without them. Uh,
It's funny. People always say like, "Oh, how long did it take you to learn this?" And I'm like, "Well, this is how long I've done it for like 10 years or whatever, but I haven't learned it yet. There's no end point. Like we
hmm,
have really fortunate to have spent so much time and have the Ali Akbar College of Music as my home in California, where my teachers are, but are like the tabla master who teaches there, Pandit Sopan Chowdhury. So he's amazing,
hmm,
and he's one of the best players in the world. But he practices every day, and he still studies his teacher's notes, and he's in his 70s. So it's like you don't the best players in the world, they don't consider themselves having reached an end point, and I think that's the same thing with any discipline. If
hmm.
you think you've learned it all, you've closed yourself off to developing further. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
true.
have a
And
lot to learn.
but at the same time, you're also teaching new students coming in how to play sitar. Is that like how are your students finding it?
I have a couple girls that learn with me online now. Their mum I know from the college, from the Al Akbar College, but it's amazing. Sometimes I can just teach them what I personally am working on, but at a much simpler level.
Mm,
So basically, you do the same exercises more or less forever, but you just change them for your level, and they quite like it, and it's really inspiring to see them like get something, and so when something clicks, and they, especially when they smile, you can tell they're having fun with it, or something they've
hmm,
been very frustrated with um, is starting to sound better, or they get a bit faster. And because I'm still very close, relatively close to the beginning of my own journey, I still know that feeling, and I still get that feeling when I work on stuff. To be able to like transfer that excitement to someone else is really rewarding.
One thing I've noticed, Rhiannon, is like, and this is also from you as well, and all the other players that I have seen, all the other musicians out there as well. Like when you are playing your sitar, I'm not sure, I might be wrong. Like I see most of you just tuning into. It's most likely like a muscle memory kind of thing now, because you're just following your fingers and also you're strumming with the other hand. But I see that your eyes are closed and you're just trying to like see the tune, and I've seen that in the concert as well when you were alongside. I'm not sure if I remember his name, but he was playing tabla and you guys were. It was mostly like a war. I'm not sure what that's called, but you were trying to get up at each other's level by just amping up. I'm not sure what it's called. I'm really sorry, but like,
Yeah.
is how's that process like for you when you are there? Because that's a process I'm not sure any of the beginner might find themselves at. But if they try and practice, they might get there. But how is that for you? Like, how is that thing?
I hope it didn't come off as a war because it's supposed to be a conversation. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you
Sorry.
mean
Yeah.
it's literally just called Sawal Jawab. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
just usually led by the instrumental, like melodic instrument, with a phrase. So usually, say you start with like an 8-beat phrase, and they respond rhythmically and a little bit melodically because the tabla is a melodic instrument as well. They can change pitch. And then you gradually decrease like 4 beats, 2 beats. So it gets the length of the phrase gets shorter. So
Mm.
it gets the excitement does build a bit, and then eventually you're playing together because the
Yeah,
gap just
because
closes down to
yeah,
nothing, and you're in unison. So that's actually I think it's much more tricky in ways for the tabla player because they have to really what have they played and be very, very closely listening to that. But it's challenging for everyone because you want to really make it a dialogue. You don't want it to sound like a battle, for instance.
yeah. No,
But there is that little bit of fun,
to and
like
fro.
not competitive, but yeah, that little
Yeah.
give and take. As for the muscle memory thing, some things become muscle memory, and you need them to be. Otherwise, you don't have the mental space to think about like crafting a line because you're too worried about I need to really think about each note I'm playing. So you need the muscle memory to play at certain speeds, and sometimes you find in concert, oh no, I've gone too fast, and
Mm.
you can't really drop back in tempo once you've pushed it there. So you have to think, okay, what can I do now that I've I've pushed myself here? So you want the muscle memory to like play scales, for instance, or you need the muscle memory to play means to pull to certain notes so that they're in tune. But there is a lot of thought in a way happening about developing the music. So
Mm.
you sort of want to free up your mind to be able to craft the lines. And I guess some of that's intuitive. And I think the best lines that come out, they are intuitive, but it's like I'm not at the point yet where I don't have to think about that stuff. Like I really do need to think about crafting and shaping what I'm
Mm.
playing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
No,
a
it's
combination of muscle memory and but the best moments are kind of when you realize you've just played something and you're like, oh, I really liked that, but I don't remember thinking about it. So
mm.
I suppose the more proficient you get and the more experience you have, the more often those experiences become. And I've heard stories of my teacher's father, Ali Akbar Khan, who I did not meet, and he passed away before I came to the college. But one of his students was talking about when he would play a concert, him having the experience of watching himself like from the audience. So like an out of body experience, I suppose. So I suppose at some level, if you can connect with the divine on that level, that would be
Mm.
the goal, I suppose. Because it's
Yeah.
not, the music isn't really made for entertainment. Like it is quite enjoyable to watch someone play. But actually, one of my favorite quotes when I think about why do I do music and what do I want to get from it? What do I want to see other people get from it? Which is good to remember if I'm getting frustrated or feeling competitive or any of these negative emotions that can work their way into trying to have a music career. Is quote by Nikhil Banerjee, who's, I think, he's my favorite sitarist. If you haven't listened to him, I highly recommend it. But he says, I actually wrote it down because I thought I'd mention it at some point, and it's kind of long. But my approach to music is very deep. I do not compromise with anybody or anything else in the world. I do not care. I want to really go beyond this materialistic world, not for the sake of enjoyment, entertainment, no. A musician must lift up the souls of the listeners and take them towards space. So he was really about that, connecting with the divine through music, and it being, it's not religious, it's spiritual, and that is,
Yeah, it
again,
is.
that ties in with the Sufi point of view as
Yeah.
well.
No, but it is sometimes, you see some magical moments happen and you feel as if it's not natural. And when those bits happen, you see the musician and playing the instrument, and you see them phase out as well. You see them acting in a way that doesn't feel natural, and that turns out to be that they are in touch with something supernatural, and they're just as amazed as you are, and they're out of their soul, and they have connected to another level. And also the bit as well, which where I said that it felt as if it was a war, it did felt as if it was a compliment. It was a compliment. It was, they both were complimenting each other. I think it was just a poor choice of word that I chose war, because at that time it was just hyping up, and everyone in the audience were also so excited to see that, and I think that was the best bit of the whole set. But yeah, and do you think that, like, my approach to anything that I am pursuing now is that whatever is coming in from my end, it's coming in from my experience and from a way that I want it to be seen by the audience? Is that the same thing with your music's taste when you are playing sitar by itself? Because I know you're composing music, and that's something that you want to express, which is something that you truly believe in. But when it comes to playing sitar, and there's just so many things that you have to keep in mind, which are coming in from the greatest of the greats out there, how do you think that, like, is your, like, past experiences in Kalimpong and Delhi in USA experiencing music, do you think that that is being expressed through your music? Is there a way to do that?
I don't think it's possible to not express the things you've experienced through music. Even if you tried, you're always going to sound like you, which is
Hmm.
always, it's one thing to try to copy someone else's style because you like it, you want to learn their technique, but ultimately you're always going to sound like yourself. But
Hmm.
those experiences definitely do come through. I think what I want from music as well changes with any given day. Sometimes it is more of just a spiritual practice, other times it feels like, no, I just want to get technically better, and other times
Hmm.
it's, I want to be creative, I want to create something new. So it's different parts of myself come through depending on my mood and the project and who I'm playing with. Uh, the dynamic really changes when you play with different people as well. They bring out different parts of you. And some people you click quite well with, others may take time. Some you just maybe never quite reach that stage of connecting. So that does change. I found that going to Kalimpong this most recent time changed a lot for me as well, because I wasn't there to study, I was there to teach and
Hmm.
to live. It was again for like 6 months, right before COVID. Actually, if it wasn't for COVID, I would probably be there. Perhaps now. I had a ticket to go back and everything for May 2020. I was just going home for like 2 months and then going back. But obviously, it was March 2020, so I didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, being there really really changed. I was exposed to a lot of folk music there, which is
Hmm.
different, like Nepali folk music specifically, um, which is their culture up in that region, and it did inspire me to create some kind of music combining Nepali folk music and Indian classical music. But not being there really broke that connection, and I think that will be something that has to wait for when I'm when I can go back, because
Yeah.
I've kind of lost connection with
No,
that
all the
music for the
best.
time being.
All the best for
But
that.
yeah, teaching was a really special thing there. I just emailed them and reached out. Um, one day I was just going for a walk and thought, hey, what if I did this? And I emailed them and said, hey, I have an idea for a project. Could I come and teach Indian classical music? Because this school is it's a very special place. So they take usually like the economically poorest kids from the area, and they go and they interview the families and kind of select the kids that would be best for this school.
Mm.
And they give them all an instrument, so they get string instruments, violin, viola, cello, and they're the foundation of their education is in orchestra music. So they
Wow.
they have lessons, like group lessons with their instrument. They have full orchestra. They also it bothered me the first time I went because they're a missionary school as well, and I thought, well, I've never been too keen on missionaries, and I think it's a bit weird to go and convert people and all of that. But they've actually done a lot of good in this place, and to have such an arts focused education and instilling good values about the environment, and a lot of the kids go on to some do go on to be professional musicians or teachers, but a lot just are able to use this education as a way to get success in other things because they've got a really unique background.
Mm.
And um, also, even though they do take some like Bible study as part of their education, I like that they're not forced to not have their other beliefs as well. Like if they're Hindu at home, or if they practice their like local beliefs, that's totally fine as well. So it's sort of this everything goes and everything's okay, even though this is what we're giving you here. We're not forcing you to change. You're not forcing your families to change their beliefs. So it is quite
Yeah.
nice. And lived in my friend's village for a few months as well, and just really enjoyed that way of life. The one downside is that you can never be by yourself. Like if you want some alone time, this becomes very difficult. But
That's just everywhere in
yeah.
India. So-
But it's such a supportive environment. Like I went there, the first time I went was my friend's mum's funeral, actually, which is I
oh,
mean, obviously a very sad thing, but I went to show and give support. And I was struck oddly, by like the joy at such an event. Like it was about a week, and everyone stayed and kept the family company, sang songs around the bonfire, we all helped prepare food and played games, and it was just like a week-long party. It's such a different attitude towards death than the West
mm.
has. Even though this is like a Christian community, it was a much healthier attitude than you see than you can
Yeah,
see
I
here.
I have my friend, one of my best friends from uni back in Delhi. He's from Nepal as well, and he was the first guy who reached out to me, and he also gave in like tremendous optimistic energy, and his approach to life was also very free flow and was very happy. But at the same time, when it comes to matters that were very serious, he was the best at those as well because he learned very well how to prioritize. And I think having a very positive to mindset to those bits helped him to manage time and do all of those bits as well. But yeah, so there's so many things to talk about here as well because we've talked about your experience in Delhi, you've talked about your experience in Kalimpong, your journey with music, but that's not all as well. You're in Aberdeen and you're studying archaeology as well. And like, how's that? Why is that there? Oh,
I sort of just like I have a degree, so I'm not really doing it for the degree. I'm doing it just for the interest in it, and also archaeology was one of those things when I was much younger, before I went to college. I thought, oh, that'd be really fun, but I never like seriously considered doing it. It's just one of those things that like kids find really interesting. You dig in the dirt and you find cool stuff. Of course, it sounds fun. And that was almost not an afterthought. Like I enrolled here to do Gaelic because it is a language that's very important that keeps being spoken and thrives and develops and has greater visibility in the creative arts and daily life. So anyway, that was the reason for coming. But then I started, okay, what other classes can I take? So I thought I'll do archaeology, and then I just started making half of my studies archaeology. And last summer I went on a dig, community dig here in Aberdeenshire, looking for the Book of Deer, or not looking for the Book of Deer. We already have that. That was actually in the art gallery last summer. Very cool to see. It has the oldest source of known written Scottish Gaelic in the margins.
Wow.
Like the book itself is a religious text in Latin, but in the margins, because paper was quite valuable, they would use it to keep track of land grants and things like that. So, and the pages are beautifully illustrated as well. So the book was annotated, we think, at Deer Monastery, and we were looking for that. There's Old Deer Abbey exists, and that's a bit later site. So we're looking for the earlier site nearby where the book was annotated. And so that was a really fun project to be a part of. I was there for the earlier part of the summer, so I'm not entirely sure of what happened in the end. But to be able to uncover these structures, I think you're not really sure what it is you're uncovering, just like one stone at a time. But it clearly was something, whether it was a wall or a hearth or whatever. It is very exciting. It is sort of catering to my inner child. Found some bits of pottery, and we found like game pieces, and yeah, so there was something there. And it's more interesting than history to me, because you're creating history in a way, or you're recreating it, you're uncovering it. You don't have to read about it in a textbook. You're like reading about it in the dirt, more or less.
Yeah, literal practical learning there. But yeah, so just going into the nuts and bolts of these bits as well through your journey, which has been remarkable. Thank you again for coming in and sparing the time to come in. But going into the nuts and bolts of starting to dive yourself into this field of just playing sitar, how would you like to address that thought to those guys who are trying to be who are the aspiring students who want to now learn about it? What would you say would be the best advice for, or a starter kit by Rhiannon Ledwell, that you would like them to know about, that these are the steps that they should keep in mind before diving themselves into it?
The most important thing, well, before starting, the person who told me before I started that it's not easy. Like, it's very physically painful, first of all, which but also just it takes a long time. It's not something you just pick up casually and do, but it's one of the most rewarding things in the world if you do decide to do it. The most important thing is to find a good teacher. So you can't really do anything without a teacher. You can't learn from YouTube. You can watch some videos to figure out like, oh, how does the sitar work? But you really need a good instruction. So finding a teacher and finding one whose teaching style works for you as well. So even group classes can work too if you can't afford private lessons. There are still beginning group instruction, and you need a good instrument. Like if you have a very cheap like £100 sitar or something, it's not going to get you very far. It won't hold its tune. It won't. Which a teacher can also recommend a place to get a good beginning instrument. My beginning instrument is, I just got a message from one of my friends who I sold it to a few years back when I got my new sitar, and he says he still plays it, and it just brings him so much joy. So to hear that my first instrument is still continuing its journey was the instruments all have their own personality. Like that's one of the most
Mm.
fun things to me is to get to play different ones. And I, it sounds kind of silly, but when I found the one that I have now, which is a beautiful Huron Rye sitar from the 80s that I got very lucky to find. It's like Harry Potter where the wand chooses the wizard. It just like you play a few and all of a sudden one just clicks and you're like, yes, this is me. This is mine.
Because for me, all the points you've mentioned over there, up till now, the first one, which is that it's painful, that's the only reason that's keeping me away from it. I wanted to learn guitar. I've bought two guitars before coming to UK, and I've sold both of them. It's because that's the main bit. So there were two limitations for me. First thing, which was the pain that comes along with the whole process, and the second one was that I'm left-handed, and I didn't want to
Mm.
like I didn't want that to be a compromisation. That, oh, because I'm left-handed, I should force myself to play a right-handed guitar. But it just seemed unfair to me that a left-handed guitar is a bit more costlier than the right one, even though they function the same way. But I just, thought that that's not fair, and I just, gave it up. I
Mm.
gave up. So
Oh.
yeah, but it's the same thing with sitar. Is that the same case for sitar as well? Because they do have the strings on the neck as well. So
Yeah, I suppose I don't really know anyone who's left-handed, but I know you can if you've never played before at all. You could just start playing a right-handed instrument. Like
mm,
you have to do things with both hands anyway. So if you start
yeah.
one way learning, it's going to be difficult. So I guess you could just play a right-handed instrument. I'm sure they do make left-handed ones, or again, it might be more expensive. You'd have to get one made or something. Um, I'm not
Uh,
sure, but
I
yeah, the
met a
pain.
guy.
I'm going through the pain again, actually, right now. Almost like my student was complaining this summer. Oh, it hurts, and I was like, I know, I'm in pain too because I broke my wrist this winter, my
Oh,
left wrist. So I did not play for quite some time. So my calluses went away, and
oh,
even still, my wrist is a bit stiffer and weaker. And there is that mental thing as well, where you're reluctant to start playing again because you know how bad you're gonna be and how weak you're
hmm.
going to be. But at least I finally made myself jump back into it and just accepted like I'm just gonna be playing patterns and scales and exercises and simple material for a bit and try to build my strength back up.
Because I do remember that we were walking once. I think when I was back in Aberdeen, we were walking, and you just showed me that your fingers don't hurt anymore, and that's an indication that you need to do your riyas. You need to go for your
Mm.
practice sessions because it's been a long time, and that just hit me. I was like, that is a very strong commitment to your craft, and I do commend you for that. And it's not an easy journey. I do get that, but I have seen that with our guests, there's a pattern that with their expertise in a skill, or with the expertise in the topic that they want to talk about, they always share a sense of humility, which is also shared from you as well. Even though you're so energetic, you're so optimistic, you're so positive about everything, but the main essence that you're trying to prove with this journey as well, I do get that it's not easy, but it's a commitment, and you should fell in love with the process. There isn't any end point, then what's the point? And if you are associating yourself with like something with these principles, I think it will definitely give you extreme success over the long run. And I do say that with my heart because I know you very well, and I wish you the best of luck for that. But thank you so much for the audience. People, people over here are very happy. And one question an audience member raised is, oh yeah, we've already covered that. But yeah, they've mentioned that if I want to pursue a musical instrument like sitar, apart from the commitment side of things, what practices would you like to say which are there for sitarist and for learning a sitar that you feel as if are important? For example, the environment around you and all of those bits.
Yeah, the environment I think is important to a degree. Like if you have a set practice space set up, like I have a on my mantle right now, I have pictures of the respected musicians and my teacher and a framed portrait of Saraswati. So I just have like, and then a carpet. So just a place that is for you, you associate it with practice. You're more likely to want to practice there, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
If building a habit, it can be very hard to build a habit, even when, like when I get out of practice, really have to put in the effort to like build that space again. And as for the practice itself, kind of varying it. It depends how long. If you if you have 1 hour, dividing it between different things. You want to do a warm up and a bit of technique practice, but if you spend your whole session only doing technique, you're likely to get bored after some time and you might fall out of. So you want to make it fun as well. So if you leave time to play, if you're working on a specific composition, a specific piece, and then set aside a bit of time for improvisation practice, and I try to remember to like leave some time just to play, like just to have fun and enjoy. So even if you have a goal for your session and I really want to improve this and this, just leave some time at the end to explore and play and find some joy in it, because while it is at the same time this very serious thing, and especially in classical music, you can feel a lot of pressure to be better, that you're not good enough, that this and that, but just have fun. Like it is supposed to, while it is spiritual as well, there is enjoyment. Joy is a spiritual thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if anyone does want to seriously learn how to play, who is listening, I'm happy to help put you in contact with someone who either you can learn from or to just talk a bit more. Always happy to hear that more people want to do music.
No, that's great. That's a great answer. Thank you. And another audience member has asked a question that apart from your gurus, what other musicians would you like to recommend who are your personal favorites?
Yeah. So I haven't actually met. I do want to give public thanks to my teachers as well, who the first teacher I studied with was Pandit Shupendra Rao, who's in Delhi, and so he set me on my journey. And then at CalArts, I studied under Ustad Ashish Khan, who is
Hmm.
a son of Ali Akbar Khan, the Ali Akbar College of Music in San Rafael, and his brother, Ashish Khan's brother, Alam Khan, became my main teacher and has been for the past 7-8 years now. It's been a
Wow.
while. As well as Arjun Verma, who is my other teacher. They're both very complementary because Alam is a sarod player, so he has fantastic knowledge of rag, and his classes have been amazing, but it's also really helpful to have that sitar technique side of things from Arjun, and I would not be anywhere without them. So and I highly recommend listening to their music. They both release things quite regularly, including actually, Mirza, you might enjoy, because you like rap. Alam has a group called Grand Tapestry.
Uh-huh.
So they are a combination of Indian classical music and hip hop,
Wow.
which I think they do quite well. Like I really enjoy that. And the two of them, alongside a Western classical composer, and they've just created a project they're releasing that's with a string quartet called The Resonance Between, and it's I don't know how to describe it, but it's Indian classical music but with a string quartet, so bringing in that Western harmonic element, which is something I quite enjoy composing as well. For just straight Indian classical musicians, I recommend Nikhil Banerjee for sitar, and Ali Akbar Khan for sarod.
Yes, yes.
And I must say my favorite instrument, though, is the sarangi, like
Hmm.
Indian classical instrument. And I did try playing it. While I was in India, actually, I took a few lessons, and I have a sarangi that is in Kalimpong right now, and I do not have access to it. But I realize the more things you dip your hand into, you just spread yourself too thin. But it's good to play a bit. But it is just the most beautiful instrument, and the tone of it. Also, I didn't think I would find an instrument more painful than the sitar, but there you go. There's one. They play on the backs of their cuticles, so they like slide on. It's
Shoot!
very
I
intense.
never. I thought they're using their fingers. They're using the top of
No,
the
they use the back of their
fingernails.
fingers, which is so sensitive. But yeah,
Commitment.
and as for, let's see, my friend Ranjana Khatak is a singer who lives in London, actually, and she sings. She's come up with some cool albums and has new releases. So I realized lately I listen to a lot of what people I know release, like their music. There are some, I like folk stuff as well, though. Blazing Fiddles I really enjoy for trad music, like Scottish. So I saw them in concert here in Aberdeen last summer. So good. So I definitely recommend that if anyone wants to check that out. I guess that's enough to go on. I've mentioned quite a few people.
Yeah.
Probably more than you wanted, sorry.
No, it's wonderful. It's great. Thank you again, Rhiannon. It's been amazing having you here. Just our closing statement as well, which is a trend now, which is there a quote that you live by? Would you care to answer that?
I mean, I guess I sort of used this earlier because I knew you were going to ask for this. So I had the Nikhil Banerjee quote, which is something in terms of music I like to live by, which I'm happy to repeat.
Please.
But also there's a couple others as well. There's an Edgar Allan Poe quote that is, "Those who dream by day are cognizant of many things which escape those who dream only by night." So I quite like that one.
That's
I won't
great.
repeat the
It's
other long quote. You already have that in there. So
I
you
do.
can
No, I do.
everyone who will.
I like both of those quotes. They both have somewhat of a similar meaning, but the first one was so much direct information and direct quote to the musicians out there and what it meant to be a musician for Mr. Nikhil Banerjee. But yeah, but same thing again. Thank you so much for coming into the podcast, just sparing your time during the weekend, I must say, just to come in, speak about your love for music, and hopefully the audience who are listening in, they had somewhat of an insight to what actually is the true meaning behind commitment for musicians out there, how important it is to commit, what are the things that you need to look forward to, and how your personal journey impacts your music career. But yeah, thank you again, Rhiannon. Thank you for
You're
coming in.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was nice just chatting. I probably a bit all over the place, jumped around a lot, but I
It's
hope
fine.
everyone enjoyed. And yeah, I just enjoyed spending some time on the weekend catching up with you as well. So
Yeah, it's been a time since we've chatted as well. I was so happy to see your face on the screen when it came up. I was like, "Yay, Rhiannon! She came in." But yeah, thank you to the audience. Thank you to our sponsors. Hope this life lessons turned into the liquid gold experience you were looking for. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.